And we are live, and welcome back to another Between the Pages book chat. And as you can see, it's a little different today because we have two authors instead of one, who's the writing team of PM Amaras and Paul Driggere. And we are here to talk about their book, Shadows in Light, which is book one of the Hidden Rims saga. I got that right?
Yes. Hidden
And
Rims.
it's a dark fantasy, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves now. So take it away.
Hi. Paul and I are cousins, and we've been writing together for many years. And the whole Hidden Rims saga came out of a dream that I had one night. I dreamed one sentence, and it just grew into this fantasy, mystery, thriller, serial killer, romance, dark romance story. And we just had a whole lot of fun writing it. It's different from a lot of the other stuff that we do where, we do technical writing and grant writing and articles and ghost writing for people. But this was ours. And after 6 nonfiction books, it was time to go back to fiction because we have another one that we're reissuing called Edgeworld. So, and Paul and I have been, we've been involved with writing together for over 20 years. So we kind of know how the other one thinks, and then we can do dialogue and do all sorts of stuff. So,
Sounds
Paul,
cool.
would you like to add something?
I think she did fine. I started out doing short stories. I met her, and our skills sort of, joined, and yeah, we had been writing now for, oh wow,
Long time.
26 years.
26 years together, 20 years in the company.
Right, yeah. So
That is a long time.
it's been
It
fun.
really is a long time.
We have so many stories you wouldn't believe it. Oh my gosh, we have written so many things for so many people, and it's like all over. I mean, we've done books, we've done stories, we've done articles, just all sorts of things.
Public service announcements. I mean,
public service announcements. Yeah, that's right.
We're generalists in many ways,
Right.
and so people can, like in our nonfiction writing, people give us a topic or anything, and we research it, we write it, and we get it published. And in our fiction writing, that's where our fantasy minds take off.
Yeah.
Okay. So, excellent segue into the first question, which is tell us about the book.
Okay. Shadows in Light.
It is complicated. It really is.
Shadows in Light is a fantasy novel, essentially. The premise is that long ago, when monotheism grew to be as large as it was, all of the old gods, all of the old beings, all of the fairies, and all of the people you stop believing in moved basically across the hedge, on the other side into another world. And it takes place in a place called Aphalon, which is a hub of all these people. And there are rims, and each rim has a different focal point, has a different people. And the hub is where the justice and the Lord and the rulers all hang out. Well, it's not a little fairy tale world anymore. It's not little gingerbread houses or anything. It's very modern. It's very sophisticated. And from the E, Earth Prime, they've inherited all sorts of issues and problems. And their biggest problem is a serial killer who's wandering around. They have a very addictive form of fairy dust called dust, and it can kill lesser beings. And the serial killers walking around killing the dust lords and all sorts of other people when no one knows why. but they do know they need help. So they bring this woman who has a genetic link to the people in this other world, and they bring Maya Animus over. Now, the world is a combination of ancient Greek and ancient Celtic mythology because it was the Gemini, the gods, Castor and Pollux, or Polydeuces, as he's known in Greek, are also worshipped in the Celtic pantheon. So they started this whole hub and they keep an eye over it. And as they keep an eye over it, they start encourage the use of magic and technology together in magitech and solve crimes.
So it's a bit of a mishmash of genres,
Yep.
and as a
Oh
horror
yeah,
writer, I
oh
like
yeah.
the inclusion of the serial killer, but so,
Yay.
did you have any trouble, mixing the genres, or did you find it was kind of a smooth.
I teach mythology. So it was a very,
Yeah,
it was a very smooth
she was right at
transition.
home here. I mean,
He
yeah,
had questions. He had questions, but then
yeah. I didn't know half of what. Yeah, she was. Were right at the time. I didn't know, so she had to she had to teach me like all of this useless stuff.
he
I
now
wouldn't
knows
say
an awful
useless.
lot of. He knows so much mythology. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
sad. I
yeah.
mean, something happened the other night, and there was a question on some trivia thing, and he just blurted it out, and I was like, "Wow, you really did study them. You
Yeah,
really learned the mythology.
I,
That's so."
s- I studied. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was an interesting way of teaching him mythology, whether he wanted to learn it or not. But
yeah, but
how
it
it
is
meshed easily.
yeah, it is as you said, it is a it is a mix of so many things. I think that's what makes it so exciting. Is that you have all of these elements,
Oh, and there's a
and
love story in there too.
yeah, right.
I love that. Oh, yeah, there's a love story too.
Yeah,
Yes,
I forgot about
yes,
that.
there
The
is,
two main
and
characters.
there's sex too,
And
Well
and
sex.
well,
there's sex too. Yeah, there's a lot of sex in it too. Yeah.
you apparently
Uh,
convinced one of our viewers, so
Hey,
oh
thank
yes, we can do
you.
that. Thank you so much.
yeah,
We appreciate
I
that.
gotta
I
say, when
really
I took a
appreciate
look at
it.
the book, it really did intrigue me too, because it's got three of my favorite things:
Mhm,
mythology, serial killers, and
mhm.
mysteries. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
Next
so
book
tell us
has
a little bit about
trafficking.
the main character.
Oh,
Uh,
her. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
my
It's actually
animal.
her.
It is. It's a very loose
Very,
interpretation
very
of me.
loose interpretation of
There are a
her.
few elements in there that there are a few elements in there that are reflective of me, just because of you write what you know. Um,
Yeah, it's true.
I don't go over the hedge that often, but at least um, Maya Animus is a researcher writer. She's very isolated. She lives with her cousin, um, and it's the day after it starts. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and she has spent a miserable Thanksgiving by herself. Her cousin's in the Virgin Islands, and her best friend's family had 40 people over and didn't invite her, even though she could see them through the back door. So she's very miserable. This is the Friday after Thanksgiving, and she keeps noticing this guy looking at her. And he's there to recruit her because her genetic makeup, her last name is Animus, Aneois, which is child of the winds. And the Anemoi were the winds of the north, south, east, and west winds of Greek mythology.
Hmm.
And his last name is Everus, or as we would say here, Eurus, Eurus, and that's the name of the south wind. So he's a descendant of that wind, and she's a descendant of the main wind gods. But over here, her family didn't move when everybody left. So they're there to recruit her. And as she gets recruited, she comes out of her shell and she starts revealing that throughout her life, she had skills like something called shadow bending, where she can just stand in a room and bend the shadows around her and no one would see her. Or she sees auras of departed people and she can tell, like, if, Aunt Jocasta has left the building type of thing. And so her skills mesh with the skills that are being touted by the male characters, who are Kai, Lord Justice, and he is a Eurus. He's Aiden's older brother, and Aiden Eurus. And they recruit her to help them because she can see things. For example, the serial killer leaves a signature, and the signature is a tiny painting. And the painting, as sorry, cat, as the serial killer, that small painting has an aura about it. It's like he's dripping an evil aura onto things, and it's a sickly color, and they can follow it. And so she's very instrumental in helping that. And as she grows more confident, she begins to do more things. And then there's, the main male character is Kai Eurus. He's Lord Justice, except that his identity as Lord Justice is a secret. And he's also the head investigator in the Justice Tower for the King and Queen. And he's very cold, very reserved, but she melts him, and she teases him, and she does stuff that nobody ever does to him, and she gets him to loosen up. So
Cool.
we have more characters.
Yeah, well, we'll get to them in a minute. So, what was the hardest scene that you wrote in the book?
Ooh.
I would say the ending, because it seemed like we went over it and over it again and again, and we kept thinking something's missing.
Yeah.
And we would look through it. I think we changed the ending about, 10
or 12 times. It was a lot of changes.
Yeah, I mean, you always want the ending of you always want the ending to, hit hard, and
Now it does.
Since we have six other books.
We have 6 other books planned for the series, so
yes. So the ending has to sort of what's the word?
it's a setup in some ways.
Segue, yeah. Segue. Right. Yeah.
But it still had to complete the story.
Yes. Right.
So I don't want to give it away because it's
No
spoilers.
Yeah, I'm not doing spoilers. So please buy my book.
Yeah, it can be difficult to get a scene right if you don't know what's missing.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's something, but you don't know what yet. So
Exactly.
That's
I've been there.
what we do. We must have read through this book seriously over 100 times. And, it was just fun because each time that we would read it, we would say, oh, you know what? Wait a minute. How about if we did, this or, this instead? And, it would be like, oh, sure. Yeah.
We talk it out.
Yeah.
We talk out our stories. We talk out the writing because it's interesting because you get 2 perspectives.
Right.
And I think, Paul was very instrumental in developing Aiden, particularly. The secondary male character who is going to, in the second book, takes a lot of, it comes to the forefront more in the second book. So we had to establish certain characteristics and certain activities that he's doing in the first book so that in the second book, it makes sense. So Paul was very, very instrumental with that and Aiden's relationships and other things that are going on in that. And then Kai was the most difficult one because he is he's very upright, kind of a stick in the mud in many ways. I mean, emotional, and but he is a great facade. And breaking through the facade was to get to the ending was a little more difficult than I
It's
anticipated.
yeah, it's very hard to write for a character that is almost completely opposite of you.
Yeah, it really,
You know, I mean,
it
it's just
really is.
yeah, yeah, it really is.
And he's opposite of Paul too, so it wasn't
Yeah,
like I had an example before me. I mean,
yeah.
Kai was hard.
I kind of actually had fun writing my stick in the mud character, but he was the antagonist, a secondary antagonist. So
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
those
that,
are those are actually easier
yeah,
because you are trying to make this person, you know,
yeah, sympathetic.
evil or something.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
He's my hero, and he's like, he's very cold and he's very upright.
And
Then you get glimpses throughout the book. You get glimpses of him, and as you get glimpses of him, he thinks back to certain like there's one scene where he has a scar on the side of his face, and he goes back and he's like thinking about how he got that scar, and well, he's not human, but he humanizes him to a certain extent. He's a demigod, so he's got immortality on one hand, but he can still be very badly wounded and choose to go beyond on the other. So he's got this scar, and then his brothers, everyone teases him because he's perfect. And he's like, I'm not perfect. And it's like, but they don't know you're not perfect. So, keep pretending. So that's where it comes
Sounds very complex.
from. I know. You should see me trying to figure out the second book. It's really hard.
Okay,
no comment on that one.
so tell us what your favorite scene to write in the book was.
What was yours, Paul?
I seriously love the way that Maya gets Kai to first notice the paintings in the art section of that store. She's just like, hey, like, well, she's trying to get his attention or something. I wrote almost at that full
The whole
scene,
thing.
and I still love the interaction.
You're
I
at a
took,
restaurant.
yeah. I took screen writing in school, so I was seeing this in my head as a film, and I was trying to think of like, all right, how would she act, and what would she say? And throughout the book, her whole attitude changes with him, with Kai. She's used to being left out or used to being in her shell, and Kai opens her up.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to say opens her up. I want to say so. No, I don't want to say open.
makes her come out of her shell.
Makes her come out of her shell. Yeah, that was like. And then.
A little better than opening up. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little better. And then and then Kai. That's the same thing. She helps open up him. And that is what is so cool about these two. I mean, when you first meet them, they're all shy and they're just scared. And as they continue on, as Kai gets to know her, he gets to love her a lot. And I just think it's so neat seeing those two how they change.
I mean, my favorite scene. That's one of my favorite scenes is when he did with that, because they're in the restaurant. She's gone to the bathroom. She comes back and she's like trying to tell him there are paintings that look exactly like the ones we find. They find them exactly like we find at the crime scene, and they're on the wall and they're dripping.
Yeah.
But she can't because they're in the middle of a restaurant. All these people are standing there, and he's fairly famous, so people are watching them. So she's trying to be very cool about it.
Right.
And the way Paul manipulates it is that all of a sudden she's engaged to him, and she's like, "Oh, okay, how did that happen?" And it's a fake engagement, it's a fake story, but he tells the story, and he leads her on with it, and I think that works. It works really well. And then another scene that I like is they're tracing the serial killer, and the way
Yes.
you get to
Yes.
the way you get to Nisiathlon is you either take this weird highway, or you go through something called the gates. And there are old gates and new gates. And this guy has been going through this old gate, going back and forth he hides in a mall when he's in this world. He doesn't want to see his family, even though they're here. And you'll appreciate what happens to the family later if you like serial killers. But Maya is tracing where he's been and everything, and she goes to open the door to this gate, and it's been set with explosives. And Kai, who is not noted for his spontaneous actions, throws himself on top of her and keeps her from blowing up. And then while they're lying there, he decides he's going to kiss her. And so unfortunately, the tabloids are there and have taken pictures of this, and they're now, blaming him, and all sorts of horrible things happen because they've seen him get kissed, and kissing her. And his youngest brother, whom we didn't mention yet, his youngest brother works with his birth father to malign Kai at any time, because that's been part of Kai's background, is that he was abused as a child. He and Aiden were abused by their mother's husband, because he's not her husband's son. That's another spoiler I'm not going to talk about.
I also enjoy that other chase on Earth.
Oh yeah.
It is the most unusual chase scene ever. It is really cool. I mean, I won't say.
Yeah, we won't spoil it, but it's fun, and
it is such a cool scene.
And it's two women doing it.
Yeah.
It's Maya and Kai and Aiden's sister Yara, who's visiting Maya on Earth.
Right.
And that was a very fun chase scene.
Well, that's a nice teaser for the book.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about some of the other characters.
Well, Kai is the oldest of four. He and Aiden have different father from the other two. He is called the master of the clan Eurus. And so he's basically put his mother in charge of all clan activities.
Mm-hmm.
There are also his two younger siblings are twins, Cyan and Iara, and they're very hip, and they're very into the culture that the Dust is very big upon, and they know all these wars and all these dealers and stuff. So they kind of help their brothers figure things out. Mm-hmm. Although Cyan resents Maya. He doesn't like anybody from Earth. He's prejudiced against Earth people, even though his sister reminds him we're all from. But he doesn't like that. There's one of our antagonists is A, who is Cyan and Yara's birth father, and Morwen, her mother's ex-husband, and he's just vicious. He any chance he gets to insult Kai or anything, he does, in the tabloids, anywhere he can. And the thing is, at one point he had taken Cyan. Now he doesn't speak to his daughter. He'd taken Cyan and he was going to keep him, and unless Kai and Aiden swore they would never tell the boy about how he abused them. And there's a really good scene where Kai and Aiden as children, there's a really cute scene with Kai and Aiden as children in a memory, because they're connected to the king and queen of Nisi Avalon. And just to clarify,
No.
the word Nisi, Nysi, is Greek for island, and Avalon is Avalon, or island
Yeah.
of the apples. So, but that is the combination, because even though Catherine Pollux are the two founders, the other two founders are Dawn, the Welsh mother goddess, and her husband just paid her for math or whatever. He's got many names, but we call him Dis because it's easier.
Mhm.
He's Dis, yeah. And he has and he is also, he has a dual personality. He's somebody else, but he'll show up in the book later too. So
Yeah.
and let's see,
Bridget.
who?
Bridget. I
Oh,
think
Bridget.
she's
Good
great.
God.
Yeah,
She's Paul.
she's great.
She's Paul's. Go on, tell her about Bridget.
No.
Bridget,
Go
Bridget
ahead.
is
Bridget.
lieutenant commander of the Care Justice's community relations department.
And she has got it bad for
For
Aiden. Big
she's got
time.
really
It's
bad
like
radar, but
really bad.
she doesn't think she's worthy of him because her grandmother happens to be in charge of the largest organized crime syndicate in Ravenswood, which is one of the areas of New Avalon. So
She
and Bridget,
she
so she,
factors in the second book.
she's reading the second book,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you meet her here,
You need
and
her. Yeah.
she and Maya, and then there's Lilla,
Yeah.
and Lilla is a half vampire.
Yep.
She's a vampire, and she works in a place called Dark, which is one of the rims, and which is primarily a vampire realm. And the Lord Governor of that realm is a victim of our killer. And Lilla and Aiden are having an affair, but it's like friends with benefits, because everybody's in love with somebody else, but they're not doing anything about it. So they're just like, okay, we'll just keep doing this, but until we decide not to, we'll just keep doing this. So that's what they're doing. Aiden's a little easy. Aiden is all of the brothers. Aiden is the most impetuous, but also the most easygoing.
Yeah.
And then
I
we have a
think,
wedding and other stuff. So
yeah, I think you impressed Shannon. So
I'm glad. Oh well, thank you.
OMG. All right. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You guys, we've been really blessed. We
Really have done. I mean,
readers' favorites, the online review site and stuff. We've
yeah.
gotten nothing but 5-star reviews,
Yeah.
and we've been really excited about that. And we're working with Michael Evan from on Facebook. We're working with him, getting publicity out. We're going to be doing some more stuff down the line. This is like one of our first big podcasts.
well, so glad to have you. So what can we expect in the future from the series?
Well, let's see.
Ah,
Well, our
Without
second.
spoilers.
No.
without
Well,
spoilers,
it's about half done, right? It's about half done.
yeah.
So
I do the first part, then we
two
come
of
in
us are. Yeah.
I do the first part, then we come in and really just start doing it. In
Yeah.
the second book, we're going to get a little more into some of the other crimes that are going on in this area. Our serial killer's nephew shows up. He's been hired by the bad guys, um, and they are involved in child trafficking. And part of the problem with the child trafficking isn't just the changeling aspect where they steal the children. They're taking the children and, in many cases, creating a child army of them for the ex-queen. We didn't talk about Ira Tanis. She got thrown out. She and her husband were thrown out by Castor and the other gods They were tossed out, and they're in exile in what is called a neutral rim. That's where they really can't do a lot of magic, but still has tentacles out there, and so she's had the people bring children in so she can make it like a janissary army of these young children. And then we have the queen's old boyfriend. I didn't talk about the king and queen. Skiron and Daira rule Easthiathlon. They're going to have a bigger role in in this in the second book because the queen's ex-boyfriend is one of the bad guys. And then the third book, we're going to be moving into some of the other rims. A family is going to disappear, and then we have the others which keep growing. But
Okay.
the synopsis changes as I write along.
How many books have you got planned?
7.
Oh,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's going to be a good series then.
That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, I just thought when I started outlining, I thought, well, no, I can't put that in the second book. No, that has to go by itself. And then we started doing this as we started doing the synopsis for each one of the books. Paul's going, no, you can't put that there. You have to, that has to go. It just kept growing. So
Yeah, I knew she was in trouble early on when when I saw like what's 500 pages. That's what's all I'm thinking. Oh my God! Yeah, I mean, you
no, no, we have
can
to cut this out. No,
look this up. So yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, I know the feeling of a growing series. So
Yeah,
you just
anyway, so
grow and
it
grow.
grows. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up here and
Okay,
let you tell everyone where they can find you in the book.
good.
We are on Amazon.com. We're on Barnes and Noble. And some Barnes and Noble will bring them into bookstores if you want to. If you want to go to a Barnes and Noble, if you have one near you, they do bring them into bookstores. So we have them in several bookstores. We
Cool.
are on Kobo and Booktopia in Australia. We're all over. You can find us, and we also answer any question. If you want to write us or talk to us about anything, you just send us a note to info@scribesunlimited.com. That's our company name is Scribes Unlimited. We also have a small independent publishing company. We've done several books for other people and stuff. So we're working on publishing books. So
Mhm.
our genres are mysteries and all sorts of stuff. Actually, mysteries. We have an education book. We do just publish that stuff. People have trouble getting other publishers, and we promote people too. So we have a whole promotion program that we work on. So that's what we do. And then we write all the time.
Yeah, cool. So it was a pleasure chatting with you. I'm glad to meet you. And
Absolutely.
Shannon also was glad to meet you. So
Hi, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
yes. Oh, she's also an author, by the way, and she
Oh,
writes
cool.
in
Okay.
Celtic mythology. So
Oh, I love
Oh,
her.
you guys should chat.
You should call me.
Do it.
yeah, yeah,
Seriously.
she's just published her first series. It's
Oh, good. Good.
a mix of fairy tale and Celtic mythology, and I think she has a
Okay.
few other
Oh,
mythologies
great.
in there as
Yeah.
well.
All
So.
right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right.
INFO at scribesunlimited.com.
Okay, and I have their book linked below, so if you want to check it out, feel free.
Yeah. Thank you, sis. Yeah.
And it was again pleasure chatting with you. And
Absolutely.
between the pages, we'll not be back next weekend because it's a holiday, but we will be back the following weekend. So join us then. And thanks. Bye for now, and see you later.